March Madness is officially in the books for 2024, with this year the women outperforming the men in terms of viewership and ratings. Mainly thanks to the superstar Caitlin Clark, who will be taking her talents to the pro level in the WNBA, but she did do her very best to bring Iowa to yet another national championship game. And the epic duel that we saw between her, Iowa Hawkeyes, and Paige Bucher's UConn Huskies, it was living up to the hype. A very close affair, with Paige Bucher's holding her own after coming off that devastating knee injury. That she was doing her own and providing UConn with a chance to get to the national championship game. And while Caitlin Clark wasn't at her best, she still stuffed the stat sheet, but she got a huge help from her teammate Hannah Stuelke. She was integral, as actually was the leading scorer for the Iowa Hawkeyes and keeping them afloat as Caitlin Clark struggled to get her shot. Towards the end of the game, there was a controversial illegal screen on Aaliyah Edwards, and I thought that late in the game you maybe hold off that whistle, but definitely clear that she stuck out her hip, and that should be called. Maybe not at that moment, but who's to say that any moment in the game is more important than the other? Whether it's right or wrong, which I think is the right call, maybe not the best timing, but it is the right call at the end of the day. Iowa gets the ball and Caitlin Clark goes to the line. She sinks one of two, but they get the offensive rebound and they bleed out the rest of the clock. Iowa heads back to the national championship game. And this time she's going up against South Carolina, who coasted in the Final Four against NC State, which I thought was going to happen. And this is again setting up that David versus Goliath matchup, where you have this amazing team against this lone superstar. And we thought in that early going that Caitlin Clark was going to carry the Iowa Hawkeyes, but yet again, Dawn Staley has led such a great crew of Gamecocks where they know how to weather the storm. You figured that Caitlin Clark was going to come out firing, and she did. She had 18 points in that first quarter, but for the rest of the game, relatively quiet. When you have such a loaded team, you can absorb that type of opening punch in the early rounds because you know you have the depth, and eventually Caitlin Clark would wear down. In the second half, they opened up a double-digit lead, and pretty much it was game over from there. Iowa was hanging around, but they never got it to within 6 or 7 points, and it just felt like the Gamecocks were going to hold on, and they did. They coasted to a 12-point victory, culminating their perfect year at 38-0, and this is only the second non-UConn team this decade, or this century even, to complete that feat. We haven't seen this in quite some time, even. It's been like 6-7 years since UConn done it, but the fact that Dawn Staley now has done this, I mean, this elevates her to another echelon in women's college basketball. She has taken USC to new heights, and despite the departure from Caitlin Clark from women's college basketball, it's household names on the coaching aspect like Gino Auriemma, who's been a stalwart there, and UConn, but then you have Dawn Staley, you have Kim Mulkey down in LSU, plus household names just like Paige Bucher's and Juju Watkins as players are going to carry the sport despite the absence of Caitlin Clark. I think they're going to be picking up right where Caitlin Clark left off, and we'll see increased viewership going forward for the game. This has already been a great year. Like I said, the ratings have outperformed the men's side, and this is just the beginning, I think, as women's sports takes another step forward in the spotlight.